couple of weeks ago in my Sunday night live stream, we had a look at the print to cut facility that's available as an addition to the ScanNCut machine. So I just thought I'd do a kind of clean recording without the questions or chit chat that goes on in the Sunday live stream. So the first thing I want to say is that you activate the print to cut function in Canvas Workspace online. And if you don't know how to do that, you need to log into your Canvas Workspace online account. This is mine here on screen, and you go up to the top of the page where it says your name or the name that you're using for your Canvas Workspace account, and you select that. And then over here on the left hand side is where you would activate any of the premium functions or any of the pattern collections that you may purchase. So the print to cut is classed as a premium function. So you would select the premium function, and then in this box here where it says activation code, you type in the code on the activation card that you've purchased. Once you type the code in there, you click activate. You may be asked to select a machine. If you've owned previous machines, it may ask you to select the machine that you want to activate this facility with. But if you've only ever owned one ScanNCut machine, then it might not ask you that question. But you basically click activate, and once it's activated, when you scroll down, you'll see here it says activated premium functions, and your print to cut will appear in here. Okay, so that's Canvas Workspace online. So I'm just going to close that down now. So now on my screen, I'm in Canvas Workspace for computer. So the first thing I want to point out is the print to cut activation card is only available for AutoBlade technology machines, so a DX machine or an SDX machine. The file formats for the images that you can use to auto trace are JPEG, GIF, PNG and bitmaps, and they have to be less than 5 megabytes in size, so file size less than 5 megabytes. The images need to be a minimum of 300 by 300 pixels in size. So in other words, nothing too small, because the software may struggle to put an outline around a small image. You can always resize an image down. So if you've got an image that's quite big and you get the software to put the outline around it, which is what I'm going to show you in a few minutes, you can always size it down once you've done that before you then send it to save and print. But you may well not be able to auto trace a small design in the first place. You can auto trace an image that you've scanned through your ScanNCut machine. So for instance, if you've got, say, a colouring book page that's got a coloured design in it that you want to use as a print and cut, you could scan that page through your ScanNCut machine, save it to Canvas Workspace, and then bring it in to the Workspace for computer software and then auto trace it. Once you've got your image on your map and you have auto traced it, there are two parts to saving the file. Basically, you save the image element, so the coloured element, the bit you want to print, that's exported as a PDF file, and then you save or export the cut element of the file separately. So I'm going to show you how to set up your mat in readiness for bringing in an image. So by default, when you open Canvas Workspace, be it online or on computer, it normally opens by default as a 12 by 12 mat. Now, unless you've got a 12 by 12 printer, you're going to need to change the screen here so that when you come to export your PDF file to print it, it's going to print on the size of paper that you're printing with. So to do that, you come to the artboard, which is over here on the right hand side, and it's the bottom icon, so the fifth icon down over here on the right hand side. And as you can see, mine is set at 12 by 12. If you have got a printer that prints 12 by 12, you can leave it at 12 by 12 And then you can come down here where you see this kind of like blue bullseye with a blue horizontal line across it, and it says show registration marks. You tick that and it will put your 4 registration marks, one in each corner of your 12 by 12 mat, which will then in turn print on your 12 by 12 piece of paper. So I'll just untick that for now. So where it says the size here, if you click on the downward facing arrow, this would be where you would choose your card or paper size. Invariably for most people, it's probably going to be A4 or US letter size. Again, you may have an A3 printer, you can choose A3. In the UK, our UK A4 is around about 8¼ or just over by 11¾ so I would choose A4 8.3 by 11.7. If you're anywhere in the world that uses 8.5 by 11, you would choose letter size 8.5 by 11. So I'm going to choose the size that my printer takes, and instantly you can see now my 12 by 12 virtual mat is still there, but the red bounding box, the area that I can cut or print within, has been reduced in size to accommodate my A4 card or paper that would go through my printer. So again, now I need to come over to this little bullseye icon and left click to show the registration marks. So that's set up my screen mat so that I know where to put the elements that I want to print, and that also sets up for when I come to put this through the ScanNCut machine for the machine to read the registration marks. So now I need to find an image. I'm going to come over here to the far left hand side and I'm going to come to this icon that looks kind of a bit like an upside down heart or a spade like you would have in a suit of cards. And if you hover over it, it says image tracing. So you know this is what you're looking for. So I'm going to select image tracing, and then you've got 2 options. It says an image in your computer in the format PNG, JPEG, GIF or BMP, or it says over here on the right hand side, an image scanned by your machine. Well, I'm going to use an image that I've got from Canva actually. This is something I just went into Canva and typed in a search for Christmas and I found this tree, and that's what I'm going to use just to show you how to use the print to cut facility. So I'm going to choose an image from my computer. I'm going to go to my downloads folder, which is where I've saved the image of my tree, and I'm going to select my tree and open it. And this tree is in a JPEG format. Now instantly the tree has dropped onto my virtual mat here, and by default trace outer edge only is selected, and you can see that it's put this turquoise line all around the tree, and that is basically what the cut line is going to be. Now again, if you click on the downward facing arrow, there's an option to trace areas by colour. So if you've got something that's got less or more colours, or the auto trace hasn't done a particularly great job for you, you could try using the trace area by colour. If you have the enhanced tracing activation card that you can purchase for the ScanNCut machines, you may also have the option here to use enhanced image tracing. I don't have that facility, so I just have the basic tracing. So I'm going to leave it as it is, trace around outer edge only, and I'm going to say OK. Now before I say OK, 2 things I want to point out. At the top of the page where it says images.jpg, that's the name of the file I brought in. By default, there's a tick in this blue box where it says paste the image on the drawing area. You need to make sure that's ticked. As far as I'm aware, it's ticked by default. It was, I think, the first time I opened up this program. If you don't have this tick mark in this blue box, when you say OK, you won't get your coloured image. So in my case, I wouldn't see this green Christmas tree. I would only see the cut outline. And that's not what I want, because the whole idea of print to cut is that you want to print out some nice colourful images, but you want the ScanNCut to put a cut line around them for you and get the machine to cut them. So you want the image pasted onto your mat in the next step. And the other thing I want to point out here, I'm not sure how well you'll see it, but there's a funny little turquoise blue line here going off, and it's I think because the tree has got this kind of black line going under it to make the tree look grounded, if you like, in its image. I think the software's tried to maybe, wants to cut out there. So there's something a bit odd going on there, but I can deal with that when I get this design on my mat. So for now, I'm going to leave it as it is, and I'm going to say OK. Now, I'm going to try and zoom in. Sometimes when I'm doing a screen share, Canvas Workspace can be a bit buggy sometimes, but I'm going to click the magnifying glass and just try and zoom in on the tree just to make it hopefully a little bit clearer. And I'm going to then just left click on the arrowhead up here, which deselects the magnifying glass. So now that funny little blue line has put a cut line here, which is not what I want. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to left click on this design, and you'll see there's one big bounding box around it. The software's been clever enough to know that even though there's a white background behind this image, that I only want the outline of this main area to be cut. So it's not put a cut line around the actual box, which is great. That's what I didn't want. So with this selected now, I'm going to right click, and you'll see there's an ungroup facility. So I'm going to left click, and now you'll see I've got two blue bounding boxes. I've got the big blue bounding box, which goes around the whole of my image, which is basically the white background that my green tree is sat on. And then I've got another blue bounding box now inside, which is the bounding box around the black cut line, which the software has put in for me. So if I just left click anywhere on my page to deselect, and then left click on the tree and drag, you can see now that the software has put the cut line in for me. But I've got this odd thing going on down here. You can see the tree is kind of angled at the bottom, and the software has tried to pick up this black kind of, as I say, grounding line. So I can edit this now. So with the outline selected, I'm going to left click on the tiny black square that's in the middle of this cut design, and that will expose the nodes. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to left click and drag an imaginary box just around these nodes at the bottom of the page until they turn turquoise, which means they're selected. And I'm going to hit the delete key on my keyboard. And I'm just going to keep doing that until hopefully it looks okay. Now I'm going to left click and click away and see what I've got. It's still a bit odd looking. I want it to be more angular. So again, I'm going to left click on the black square to expose the nodes. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to click somewhere down here to try and capture some of these nodes and see what's going on, because I don't know whether these nodes are curved lines or straight lines. So I'm going to click on one to see what happens. And I've got an element selected here. You know it's selected because it's in the kind of blue turquoise colour. And up at the top, it shows me it's a curved line. So I'm going to left click to deselect, select the nodes again, and I'm going to select some of these and see what we've got here. And again, I've kind of got curved lines, but I've got too many nodes really in here for what I actually need. So I'm going to, with these few down here selected turquoise, I'm going to hit delete on the keyboard. And then I'm going to grab a couple more and see what I've got. And I'm going to hit delete and see what happens. So basically, I'm just trying to tidy up this bottom element of the tree. And you can see that the line goes out here where this wanted to go off. So I want to try and make this a vertical line rather than a line going off at an angle. So I think I've got like editing handles, which you can see here when I click on this, this is a curved line, and that's not what I want. So with this selected, I'm going to come up to the top and make it a straight line. And straight away, that makes it more angular, which is fine. I think there are too many nodes in this corner here, so I'm just going to delete a few to get it, you know, nice and angular. And I'm going to do the same with this corner here. So I'm just going to drag an imaginary box around these nodes and hit delete and see what happens. And then now I can see that there's, you know, some kind of double-ended handles here, which basically means it's like a curved line. But I've got this stray node here. So this one here I'm going to select and I'm going to make it a straight line. And then with this selected, I'm going to add in a node and drag this node down so that I'm making these sides of the base of the tree more angular. Now I'm going to left click to deselect, and I'm going to put this back over the tree, and then I'm going to tidy up the nodes. So I'm going to select the little tiny blue square again that you may or may not be able to see, and I'm going to bring in these nodes just to make this corner a little bit more angular. I'm going to select this node to select this bottom line, and I'm going to add a node in and drag this down because this tree is slightly angled on the bottom. And then I'm going to bring this over just so it kind of hugs the bottom of the tree and, you know, gives me a nicer clean edge here. This line here I want to be a little bit more curved, so I'm going to bring this in and I'm going to use the handles to hopefully just curve it a little bit more. So when I click away now, you can see it looks a lot tidier. Now looking at the top of the tree, the software hasn't done great around the star, and I think the main reason for that is that this star, if I zoom in even more just on the top of the star and then use the arrowhead to deselect, this star's kind of like an ombre effect. It's kind of like a light yellow going to a medium yellow to a darker yellow, and it's also got this kind of dark mustard around the outside. So the software has clearly been unsure what it's, you know, it's tried its best to get the star, but it's not got it completely. And I think I can tidy up this a little bit more. I'm not going to go into great detail in tidying all this up because this is just a video and I want to show you how the print to cut facility works. But I want to also show you that once the software has put the outline in for you, you can tidy up the cut line. So again, I'm just going to scroll down until I find that tiny blue square, which helps the nodes appear. And then you can see again, you know, these funny angles going on here with this, with, you know, these double-ended handles on this node. So I'm going to leave that one kind of where it is. This one here I'm going to bring in so it's a little bit more angular, but this one now needs to come up here. So I want to select this line and see what I get. So I'm going to click on a node over here, and that's given me this line. So the first thing I'm going to do, I think, is make it a straight line. And then I'm going to add in a node using this plus point here that says add point. And that gives me a point to put in on my star. Now I want to add a node in here. So I'm going to select this node over on the right hand side, which highlights this element, and again I'm going to add a node in, and now I can drag that node up so it's making it more angular. And again, you know, this is all curved and I want it to be a bit more angular, so I'm going to select this node here, and you can see it's a curved line, and you know that by the fact that the curved node is highlighted here. So I'm going to change it to a straight line, and then I'm just going to drag it out a little bit more, just to make it, as I say, a little bit more angular. And again, this is a curve, so I'm just going to click on some nodes and see what I get, and I'm going to make that a straight line. And then I'm going to, we've got some like funny node elements here which I want to try and drag out and make straight. And I'm going to add a node point in here so I can bring this bit of the star in a little bit more. So again, I can drag that down now. So this is a bit more star-like. This is straighter. And then this is going into a curve again. So I'm going to select this node, which highlights this element, and I'm going to make that straight, just so that it looks a bit more star-like. And again, this element here is a curved line, so I'm going to make it a straight line. So now when I click away, you'll see that my star looks a bit more pointed, and I think that, you know, kind of makes it look a bit better. This line here still looks like it's a curved line, so again, I'm just going to find that blue square to expose the nodes, and I'm going to click on one of these nodes until I get this element and make it a straight line. So my star is now kind of, you know, coming in a little bit more. As I say, I don't want to mess too much with it. Just showing you that you can edit the elements, you know, even after the software has auto traced for you. So when I click away now, that is looking a little bit better. So I'm going to zoom back down to 50%. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to select both elements, right click and group them back together. And then from here now, you can resize it bigger or smaller, and it will adjust what will be printed out, and it will also adjust the cut line for you, you know, because this is a group. You can come over to your layers panel, which is the second icon from the bottom, and you can duplicate it. So if you want more and you want them different sizes, you know, you can adjust the size of them and position them wherever you want. Now the thing with this is they've got to be within this red bounding box, okay? So long as whatever you put on this piece of paper is within this red bounding box, it will print and it will cut for you. So I'm just going to position mine side by side for now. So I've got 2 Christmas trees. Now, one thing we discussed was whether you might want to, basically what will happen, this line is hugging the complete outside edge of this printed tree. And that would be what would cut. Now, sometimes when we, you know, are cutting, say, stamped images and things like that, we like to have a bit of a white board around it. And we discussed that when I was doing the live. And when I sent the printout over to the machine, there was no edit option for us to add in an offset. So I'm going to select the tree on the right. I'm going to right click and ungroup it so that I'm back to 2 elements. And I'm going to select over here in the layers panel, I'm going to select the tree outline. This is the cut line, okay? I'm going to select that. And then I'm going to go to the edit tab and see if we can add an offset. So I'm going to come to the edit tab. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and I'm going to choose offset. I'm going to say 0.04 outward, and I'm going to leave it as corner type round for now and see what happens. And I'm going to make sure that create an offset line only around the outer edge is selected, because that's what I want. I basically want an offset outline of the outline that the software's put in for me on the print and cut, if that makes sense. So I'm going to say OK, and it has given me an outline. So if I drag them all away, you'll see I've got two outlines. This is the original outline on the left. If I come up to the top of the page, you'll see it's 2.68 wide. And if I click on this, it's 2.76. So this is the offset I've just created. So I'm going to get rid of the original cut line on this second tree. And I'm going to position this one over, and I'm going to zoom in on this and position it so that I've got an outline. Now, if I print this on white paper or white card, when I then come to cut this with the ScanNCut, this one will cut directly all the way around my coloured tree, and this one should cut leaving a 0.4 border. Okay, so I'm just going to use the arrows on my keyboard and just try and get it a little bit more centralised. So now let me go back to 50% so you can see both. I'm going to select both elements of the tree over on the right and right click and make them a group. Now the other thing that you could do, you could print this design, for instance, say you were going to use this tree, let's say, but you wanted it printed and cut. You could print this and get the machine to cut it directly on its outline. Then you could use an offset and have the offset cut in card. So you could say, print this on white card and have it cut directly round the outside edge of this tree, and then use the offset that we've just made here without this tree and cut this, say, in red card and map this printable onto some red card, or cut it in black and put it on black card. So what you would do in that instance is you would ungroup and you would get rid of the tree. I don't need these two baubles cutting down here as well, so I'm going to get rid of those. And you could cut this in card. And looking at it, I think I'm going to just, because I've just noticed that there's elements here, I'm just going to right click and ungroup this one and drag the image out of the way, and it's put circles, cut lines around these two baubles on the bottom. So I'm going to get rid of those as well because I don't need them. So I'm going to put this one back, position this directly over this tree. I'm going to zoom in on this just to make sure that I've got it lined up as best I can. I'm going to select both of these elements, right click and make them a group. And then I've got this one here that's got the offset. Now I'm not going to cut this in card, I'm just showing you how you could possibly do it. I'm just going to bring this one back in and try and print and cut both and see if we do get, you know, this second one with a white border. So again, I'm just going to zoom in on this one just to try and line it up as best I can, because, you know, the more time I take to do it here, the better outcome I will get from a print and cut. As I say, you don't have to mess about doing this at all. You could just let the software put the outline around it, print it and cut it. But I'm just showing you that you can tidy up the outline before you send it to print and cut. And I'm also just trying to show you that there are other options that you can do as well. So I think that will do for now. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not actually going to use these images at all. I'm only using them for the purpose of this video. So I'm going to right click and make them a group. And I'm just going to zoom back down now to 50% and just position them both. So from here now, you have to save both the printed file and the cut file. So what you do, you go to the top of your page where it says File, and you come down to Export PDF and Images Only. If you choose all visible layers, basically what will happen, the software has put a black cut line around my trees, And if you choose all visible layers, when this goes to the printer, I would get the green tree with the yellow star, and it would also print the black line, which I don't want. So you choose images only. I'm going to call it tree printable, and I'm going to save it onto my desktop, so I'll be able to find it and open it in a minute and show it to you. And it automatically exports as a PDF, so once I click save, this file will be exported as a PDF file. Now, before we go any further, you also need to save the cut line so that the ScanNCut can cut around it. So again, you come back to File, you come down to Export, but this time you choose Export/Transfer FCM file. It says to you that the image data won't be transferred, so the coloured part, which is fine, because the ScanNCut won't know that there's a Christmas tree there. All as the ScanNCut will see is the outline. That's all it's looking for. It doesn't know what it's cutting round. It could be anything. It could be a cat, a dog, a house, you know, it could be anything. It doesn't know, and it doesn't care. It's just looking for the cut line. So I'm going to say OK. And then again, you've got options. You can either export it to your computer and drag it onto a USB stick, or put a USB stick in your computer and just export this and find your USB stick in the next screen. Or if you've got Wi-Fi, you send it over wirelessly, and that's what I'm going to do. If you were saving to computer, you would choose this one, and then in your properties box here, you would look for like I've got desktop chosen, you'd look for your USB stick and save it directly onto your USB stick. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to send it wirelessly. So I'm going to choose transfer. It says the registered machine is ready to download the transferred file. So in other words, the registered machine that is registered to use this activation card that I showed you at the beginning in Canvas Workspace. So in my case, that's my SDX 2200 Disney, is ready for this cut file to be sent over to. So I'm going to say OK. So now you won't be able to see it off to the side, but my printable PDF is on my desktop. I'm going to double click to open it. And here is my printable piece of paper that I'm going to send over to my printer to print. And as you can see, I've got the 2 registration marks at the top. And if I scroll down, I've got the 2 registration marks at the bottom of my A4 piece of paper, which I set originally in Canvas Workspace. So I have a printer icon that opens up when I open a PDF. You may have to go to File and scroll down and find Print. But if I just send this, if I hit the printer now, this brings up my printer dialog box, and I can send this straight over to my printer. Now, when I first got the activation card, I went online to just have a look how the print and cut facility is meant to work. And I found a video, I think it was by Brother, but it had no voiceover. It was just, you know, music and text coming up on the screen showing you what to do. And I think they had theirs set on scale on 100%. But the first test I did, I didn't alter anything here. And when I printed the design that I used in the live stream, again, I didn't alter anything here. I just let my printer print exactly as the settings are here. I would do a test before you cut anything out on, you know, your expensive card. Leave your default settings on your printer, send it to print, and, you know, just print it on copy paper and cut it and see if it works. If it doesn't, you may have to, in your properties box, as I use a Mac, so mine may look different to yours, but you'll have some kind of properties box when you go to your printer settings. You may have to choose scale and choose 100%. Me, I don't have to do anything. So I would just now send this straight to the printer. That's gone over to my printer, which is in a different room, in a different part of my building, and that will be sat there waiting for me. So I can close that down. The cut file will already be over on my ScanNCut machine waiting for me. So in a minute now, I'm going to show you the printable and show you how to retrieve the cut file. Okay, so here's my printout that I've just retrieved from my printer, and you can see I'm just using A4. This is just white copy paper, and I've got the 4 registration marks in one in each corner as I set up in Canvas Workspace for Computer. So now I'm going to load this onto my ScanNCut mat and then show you the next step. So I've switched my ScanNCut machine on, and I'm going to go to retrieve data, and I'm going to go from Canvas because that's where I made the file. And there are the 2 cut outlines of the tree. You don't need to save, but I'm just going to save it into the memory of the machine, because one of the beauties of the print to cut facility is that now you've got the print PDF saved and you've got the cut file saved, you could come back to this next year and go and find where you've saved this on your computer and print it out, and then come back and put your printout on your mat and cut it. And that's the difference between the print and cut and the sticker kit. The sticker kit you print, although you print it as a PDF, it has no registration marks, and every time you want to print it, you'd have to scan it manually through your ScanNCut machine and apply your cut lines. So this is one of the advantages of having the print to cut facility. So I'm going to say OK, and now it's telling me what to do. So it says, please attach the material that's been printed with the registration marks onto your mat, and make sure that you load your printable piece of paper on your mat in this orientation. So you've got your bullseyes that are in each of the 4 corners of your piece of paper, and you've got a horizontal line across. It's got to be like that. So if I just turn you to my mat, so hopefully you can see my printed piece of paper is on the mat and the horizontal lines are horizontal. So in other words, you couldn't put this printout on your map in landscape. The registration marks wouldn't be able to be read. Now again, bearing in mind this is just on copy paper, I don't know what, how the results are going to be. But, so we'll just go back to the screen. I'm going to say OK, and then I'm going to say please select, and I'm going to say cut. And now I'm going to press start. And this is what I mean by the screen. There was no edit facility that would allow me to create an offset like I did in Canvas Workspace. So now it's read the 4 registration marks. It's not scanning the image to put an outline around it. They're already there. We did that in Canvas Workspace. All as it did then was it was looking for the registration marks so it knew where this piece of paper was on the mat. So you can place your piece of paper anywhere at all on your mat, so long as you've got your registration marks on the mat in the right orientation. So that's finished. I'm just going to point the camera down a little bit more. So I'm just going to peel away the piece of paper, and I'm just going to bring you back to my desk so that you can see overhead how well this has cut. So hopefully now you should be able to see this. So the one on the left is the one where the line was applied directly around tight to the printout, and that's how it's cut. And the one on the right is the one that I made the 0.04 offset for in Canvas. So you can see I've got a kind of a white line all around the edge. So it's entirely up to you, what you prefer and how you want to deal with your prints and cuts. But I hope that was helpful. Just to show you, there is the piece I've just taken off the mat. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. If you've got any questions or comments, leave them underneath the video, and please make sure you're subscribed. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up like button, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.